most of the questions around a lot of the new in the conference. One of the newer potential pieces that we'll see is an Iowa offense, and this is going to start with Kirk Ferentz now away for this first game,
Yeah.
suspended for one game to start the season because of recruiting stuff with their quarterback, Cade McNamara, coming over from Michigan. We saw McNamara go down last year with the ACL. He should be back through this season, but they bring in Tim Lester as the offensive coordinator after letting Brian Ferentz go. So I guess the question for them is, what does it look like offensively? Because that's always the question with Iowa. And we know Phil
Right.
Parker, we know their defense, we know they're going to be consistently great on that side of the football. But offensively, what do they realistically need to take that next step in the conference?
Well, again, I think some big plays out of their offense, and most of that is going to come in the passing game. So I'm interested to see what Tim Lester brings to the table, and hopefully all that all that pressure that was on them last year, got to score 25 or more, or Brian Ferentz doesn't keep his job. That was too much pressure on him. It
Yeah.
was too much pressure on the players. So hopefully all that is out the window now, and it's a clean slate and a fresh start for the Iowa offense. And so I think I expect to see them better, and they don't have to be great. They don't have to be, on the same level as an Ohio State offensively, right?
Sure.
And that explosive. They just need to take some pressure off their defense. They need to be able to sustain drives. They need to be able to score some touchdowns and play complementary football with their defense at a higher level than they've done the last couple of years.
I mean, they were
You know
still
they're
an
going to run.
outstanding
I
team.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Well,
going to run
they've
the
got running
football.
backs
It's
back,
just their passing game that has to
100%.
be better.
Well, Kirk Ferentz was trained as an offensive line coach. We know their offensive line is going to be up to snuff. We know their running game is going to be up to snuff. The passing game has always been the question mark. Are they going to be able to have legit receiving threats? They really haven't even had those. The tight ends are always
Yeah.
outstanding.
Well, and
So,
remember last year, not only did they lose McNamara, they lost their tight end, who
yeah.
was an outstanding player early in the year, and that just really hampered their offense and how they try to operate on that side of the
They
ball.
lost a number of tight ends, including Eric
Yeah,
Gall, who was they felt was going to be the biggest
yeah,
addition to their team offensively outside of McNamara coming over from Michigan with them. So 1000%. They'll be retooled. They'll look a little bit different, but it I think the other thing that before we move on real quick, you have to remember with any of these changes, and that's what we're going to bring up with these head coaches, but certainly with coordinator changes, and I thought we saw this with Ohio State's defense last year. It generally takes a full year to get the system implemented, to get everybody comfortable with it, and really feel like you can go from 101 to 202. Ohio State's defense last year took the major
yeah.
step forward under Jim Knowles in year two. It's not like they were bad year one, but just think about the difference between those two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we'll talk about Ohio State a little bit, but I expect them to take an even bigger jump in year three for
No
two
doubt.
big reasons. Number one, I think his complexity will come out more because he's got a veteran group that a lot of those guys came back. Some of them that could have gone to the NFL, wanted to come back to take care of business. I think they'll pressure the quarterback better. I think they'll disguise coverage better. I think they'll just be more complex. And they just are a very talented defensive football team. They've got outstanding players on that side of the ball. So I think the third year for Jim Knowles for the Ohio State defense, they're going to be one of the best, if not the best, defense in college football.
All right, just real quick, we look at the new head coaches in this conference in Michigan State and Indiana in particular. Michigan State has FAU here week one. Indiana has FIU week one Saturday. So just the overall outlook for the season and their week one matchups for both as they take over new programs.
Yeah, very interesting and very interested to watch both of them because I really have great respect for both of these head coaches. First of all, Jonathan Smith, did a great job at Oregon State. He played there. He was a good player, a good quarterback. He was an outstanding coach there. And the interesting thing, and this had to have played a little bit into the fact of him getting hired by Michigan State, but he's at Oregon State, right? And the best and the brightest son in that state is Oregon, right? The Ducks. So he's coaching at the other place and does well, holds his own, wins, builds a program that's built on being physical and running the football and play action and did a great job. So now he goes to Michigan State. And the best and the brightest school is the University of Michigan, right? It's not Michigan State necessarily, So he inherits the same kind of a job, a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, a lot of roster overhaul, So it'll be interesting to see just kind of what their roster looks like. But Aiden Childs, the quarterback that he brought with him from Oregon State, is legit,
And confident.
and confident. He's used to winning. He came from a winning program, right? So now he's in a new setting, and he still feels like, why can't we win, right? So if he can pull a lot of guys up with him and feel that way, it'll be interesting to watch. And getting off to a great start in this opening game, I think, will be really important. Same thing for Indiana. Indiana needs to get off to a great start. Kurt Signetti, big chip on his shoulder, right? I mean, he is a winner. Everywhere he's been a winning coach. Had a great record at JMU, right? And had some really good players, many of which he brought with him to Indiana. So a roster overhaul in Bloomington as well. Two new head coaches that have been very successful in their previous stops. And so it'll be very fun to watch. And Indiana has a chance to get off to a very fast start, not only in this first game, in the first 3-4 games of the season, they've got a chance to get off to a great start.
And we'll see them week 3 in UCLA in a battle of new head coaches in the Big Ten as well.